Hands together for Tiff Needell. They do sag a bit. You've got longer legs than me as well. So
And on that bombshell, it's over.
Well, I was going to say, we were going to have auditions for Top Gear presenters here earlier on. All they were asking them to do is to walk on stage, tell a joke about a Mexican that isn't offensive, and then punch me in the face. But I don't know, you can try first if you like. But you were on Top Gear before Jeremy, though, weren't you?
Oh yes, 1987, made my debut as a little young boy.
Do you remember the first show you did?
I could hardly see over the steering wheel, I was so young in 1987. Yeah, Jeremy joined about a year after me, and we built the show up then in the mid-90s, I mean, to about 6 million viewers, the same as now. And unfortunately, we launched Top Gear magazine. Everything was going wonderfully in my life. Then Jeremy decided to leave Top Gear and go and do his chat show, and he was fed up with doing cars. He said he'd never do cars again. Of course, the chat show didn't really work, but unfortunately, our viewing figures, almost halved after Jeremy lost, just to prove what a pull he is. Yeah. And unfortunately, the BBC Two decided to take us off air in 2001. It wasn't good enough, so we all went off and took the whole Top Gear team to Channel 5 and created Fifth Gear.
And did a real car show instead?
And did a real car show. I think the BBC were then a bit embarrassed that, Fifth Gear had turned up, and I think they actually didn't want to have cars on BBC Two ever again, was their sort of dream, but because Fifth Gear worked so well, they had to get Top Gear back, so the only way to do that was to persuade Jeremy to come back. So they went to his Oxfordshire mansion, and they took a couple of henchmen down with some industrial leaf blowers and hosed £50 notes through the bloke's front door. And only when the fat git he was up to his nose in filthy lucre, and he was in the attic of his Oxfordshire mansion, and he agreed to come back and do more Top Gear. But of course it was brilliant, he and Andy Willman created the new show, and we had Jeremy doing what he does best, which is cars on telly. But,
and he must love you, because he's done the foreword to your book as well.
He has, yeah. He has written a 210-word insult followed by 5 nice words.
It's the rudest thing I've ever written. It says Tiff's driving his poetry, but what he's really good at is drinking. So is that true?
Well, that's partly true. But it's a shame it's all gone wrong, because it is a show that a lot of people enjoy. A lot of people hate it. It is a bit of just lightweight entertainment, but it's become a family programme. Kids love it, and it's not a true car film. I'm sure not many of the classic car people like Mr. Clarkson's style of presenting, but he has been entertaining, and it's a shame it all ended up in such a mess.
When it's good, it's really good.
Yeah.
When it's bad, it's just embarrassing.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. Some of the stage stuff they do is so awful, but when things naturally go wrong, you can see the natural ones, and it works really well.
What does this mean for Fifth Gear? Because the last time I saw you was at Bicester Heritage Village, and you were hooning around the inside of a hangar going sideways in a BMW, I think it was.
Well, probably,
but,
like that.
But will it mean something for Fifth Gear? Will Fifth Gear change? Or?
Not really. We're on History Channel now, so we're about programme 4 out of 6, so series. We've got 6 more already filmed, so we're putting on history. And luckily now, because obviously History Channel is one of the pay-per-view, it's on the Sky package and the BT package, Virgin package. But we are having the repeats coming out on ITV4, so I'm delighted we'll get back to terrestrial viewing, so people that haven't got paid-up telly will be able to watch these shows. So we like doing them. We still love doing our car show. People appreciate it. Top Gear, I don't know what. I don't think you'd never come back, to be honest. I
can't see it working.
No superstar's going to dare to take on Clarkson's mantle. And,
so your phone hasn't been ringing then?
No. It is. I mean, the next person that dares stand in front of a camera and say, "Welcome to new Top Gear," they're just going to get shredded by all those kids.
It's going to be horrible, isn't it? It'll be carnage.
So I don't know. I know the magazine. I don't know what's going to happen there. There's Top Gear Live, the shows, which I still work on sometimes. I help them out in the Top Gear.
Well, the guys who do the transport for this thing do the Top Gear Live transport, and I got a phone call from them saying, "We have some idle transporters. We're not doing it anymore. So do you want a car shifting?" And I went, yeah, bring them all in. So you've got Fifth Gear on the go. I want to dig back a bit. And how did you make the journey from being a well-respected, renowned racing driver and going into presenting? Did it happen by accident?
Yeah, all by accident. I never intended to be on telly at all. I was just trying to be a professional racing driver. And in the mid-80s, after my Grand Prix career didn't quite happen, I was looking for jobs, and I was one of the first expert analysts to go on BBC with Murray Walker. I started doing live grandstand Formula 3 and Formula 2.
Murray.
Oh yes, I worked with Murray for about 5 years. So James Hunt was doing the Grand Prix, but he couldn't be buggered to do all the boring Formula 2 and Formula 3 and the Formula Ford Festival. So I was delighted to be dragged in, and then my voice got on television. At the same time I was writing track tests for Autosport magazine, so again to get my name out, to try and get more racing drives and earn a bit of money, so I was ducking and diving. And then it was Chris Goffey broke an ankle ice skating when he was about to test a racing car for Top Gear in 1987.
Right.
So I was just got in for one show. All I was supposed to do was just do the driving for Chris Goffey. And in fact, the very first item, Chris presented it still, here's Tiff Needell, and I never took my helmet off. So for one item, I was like the blueprint Stig without knowing it. But I was allowed to talk. So I did this one. And even before I drove that very first time, I thought, when you watch racing on telly, you know, it looks a bit easy. You see the driver turn in, turn out, you know. So I thought, well, I better make it look difficult, because I've always thought, so I deliberately started my sideways driving style. Yeah. And the producers of Top Gear were so amazed that I could drive on the limit and talk at the same time.
My earliest memory of you on the telly was taking a Ford Sierra Cosworth, I think it was around Brands, and you were just describing every single corner in detail, which is brilliant. It's like it was a computer game before computer games, with the voice in your head, like you were.
Well, that's why I mean, I'm a trained civil engineer, so I don't have the great vocabulary of Clarkson or Quentin Wilson and stuff. So I've always done my approach to writing my track test in Autosport was just try to put the readers in the seat with me, and that's why I tried to on television, just because we're not all going to drive McLaren F1s or P1s, and so I was trying to think, well, you know, this is the closest as a lot of the audience ever going to get to driving a supercar, so I try to bring people in the car with me, and that's just my simple way of showing my enthusiasm on the telly.
So you got more successful as a presenter. How did you translate your obvious love of racing into, you know, when you're driving a more mundane vehicle and doing more standard road tests? How do you get your enthusiasm, your gander up for that?
Well, because it's always something that's got a limit. So I'm always driving on tracks and stuff, but I'm not very good at the basic road test to the new Mini Metro and a country road. I mean, what can you say? It's sort of, I quite like group tests, but I can jump from A to B to C. Because I don't do that much motoring journalism, so I don't actually drive enough cars to sort of have that background information that some of these, you know, the written journalist mags, they've driven everything all the time and they know all the different cars feel. So I have to sort of bumble along a bit. But when it comes to driving fast on a track, then I'm well happy. But so Top Gear, the racing, I was still racing professionally to the end of the, you know, into the 90s, the same time as Top Gear was happening. So in a way, as the racing career died off a bit, the TV went up, and so it was just lucky. None of it was planned in my life.
Your racing career is picking up again now, though, because you're doing historics, aren't you?
Well, yeah, the only racing I do now is driving cars almost as old as me. So,
well, so do I. It's brilliant.
In fact, Lord March at Goodwood has lengthened my racing career, I think, by hopefully about another 10 years to still come, because I've raced at every revival meeting, and that's now 13, I think, or something. The revival's been going for, so I've been lucky.
You were last weekend, weren't you?
I was at Rover SD1. Brilliant. Goodwood, the perfect 3.5 litre rear-wheel drive, big heavy thing, no power steering, no power brakes. And I catch myself, it's funny, I watched someone posted a video of the onboard camera of me doing a lap of Goodwood, which is on my Twitter things or somewhere, Tiff_TV. And I suddenly noticed that as I go down to second gear, I double D-clutch. And I actually know I do this, and it's because when I learned to drive on Mum's Morris 1000, it had, as we all know, there was no synchro left on second gear.
Yeah, never.
Normal Morris 1000. So I actually double D-clutched on my driving test.
Yes.
Because I had to get into second gear. Brilliant. And so ever since then, when I go from third to second, I double D-clutch. I still do it in a racing car. You can see on the video, whenever, you know, fourth to third, I just single clutch. But when it comes third to second, the little knee jumps up and down like that.
I remember you doing a test on a Morris 1000, going sideways. I don't know which track it was on, but I remember you commented, and it was one of the formative experiences when I think, yes, hold on, these old cars are really cool because you can drive them really fast and scare yourself.
Well, it's almost with the Morris 1000 thing. Well, I'm probably the only person in the world, but everyone says everybody loves the Mini, and everybody's had a Mini. I'm the person that goes, not me. Yes. Because the Mini was the car that ruined rear-wheel drive small saloons. Just because it's faster, it's not the same thing as a Morris 1000 on the lock stops on a wet roundabout, is it? When I went wrong, my crash was only at about 10 miles an hour. And that's the thing, you know, the roads are so much more dangerous. And I tell my kids, you know, I'm terrified. Luckily, I've got them on one of these insurance companies in Genie that has the black box in the car, because the difference it makes to me for my sons of a racing dad, that I know that they're not breaking a speed limit, and they are wonderful. I mean, it gets insurance down, and so I'm a big fan of what Ingenie had done, and so I'm in with them. But you know, when they're driving, it worries me a lot.
Yes.
What was I talking about before? I was about something else.
You were on about Morris 1000s, and then you were talking about racing SD1s and double D-clutching.
No, before that, before I went off into insurance and my son driving. Anyway, I've forgotten that.
Yeah, well, anyway, honestly,
I had a great point I was about to make, and I've
got a great question I want to ask you, which is, having driven so many great cars, particularly historic cars people here are going to be interested in, Give me two cars. Give me the greatest car, the most unsung hero car you've ever driven, and the biggest dog. I'd like to know, what's your favourite?
Well, the McLaren F1 will always be the greatest supercar ever, because that's manual gearbox, manual brakes, manual steering.
Yeah.
But the worst thing, I don't have anything front-wheel drive, it's pretty bad, so that rules out quite a lot of cars.
Yeah.
And, but I don't think anything's that annoying, because I just like driving anything. So that's the sort of thing. Things aren't that bad because you can still enjoy an aspect of it. Nothing's so horrible that, you know, nothing appeals.
Now, you're going to be here today.
I know what I was going to talk about if I
God.
wandered off to my son. We were talking about Morris Thousands and Minis having a lot of grip. And the trouble nowadays is almost that these little modern hot hatches that our kids drive when they're 17 have got too much grip, too wider tyres. And in a bizarre way, I was thinking a way to be safer, we ought to take some grip away from the youngsters' cars. So when they slide, like I said, 10 miles an hour on a roundabout, I was on the edge in the wet. Because now these kids in their little hot hatch Novas go around a corner at 30 miles an hour on rails, 40 miles an hour on rails, 50 miles an hour on rails, and they suddenly get to 55 and it understeers towards the big tree and they lift off and the back comes out, they overcorrect and they go straight into the tree. And it's almost like they've got too much grip, so they lose control. They're doing 55, 60 miles an hour.
Yes.
So it's a funny thing to say as a safety campaign, to say we should take grip away and give youngsters skinny tyres.
Well, it's one of Clarkson's quotes, isn't he? They'll put a spike in the middle of the steering wheel and watch people drive slower. You know, we're all too cosseted. Look, it's fantastic to have you here today, and I'm sure everybody here will agree it's a real privilege, isn't it? You're going to be here, and you're going to be with your book on Mike's stand, just over there.
I've only done one haul so far. There's so much to see. It's taken me all morning to do about half a haul because I keep on stopping and looking at
it's great.
The lovely different cars. And the amazing thing here is that the people don't just seem to restore and love the popular cars. There's some weird oddball things out there. I thought, what the f have you bothered to restore that for? Everything seems to be loved by someone, and it's bizarre cars. I love things when they put the history of the cars, that little Tiny, the Scottish van, the Austin.
Oh, the Hillman.
The Austin 7, an Austin 7 van, the Scottish.
Van, with all the shelves in
with
the
all
back.
the newspaper.
Oh, it's amazing.
Adding all that extra history, I always think is lovely with people having displays. It shows how much they love the car. It's
well,
quite wondering.
I mean, people bond with their classics. They bond, and it comes from memory. Like you're talking about your Morris 1000. I mean, let me rephrase my question before. Is there a racing car or a car at all that you've just bonded with and said, this is the car for me, apart from the McLaren F1 that you've already mentioned? Is there something that you've sat in and thought, goodness, they built this for me?
No, Morris 1000.
Fantastic.
Lotus of Lamb. Lotus of Lamb was nice, but the Morris 1000.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. That's fantastic.
Morris 1000s.
So you're going to be on Mike's stand with your book?
In about 15 minutes.
In about 15 minutes time. So you want to go and say hello to Tiff? He's going to be over there.
Got a few to flog. Half price bargain here.
You've got a forward...
£10 for the collectible hardback, £5 for the Read on the Beach paperback.
Possibly the rudest thing ever written by Jeremy Clarkson as well, so that's worth reading.
Worth it just for the photo of me wearing my cowboy suit when I was about 5 years old. All the mums will love that one.
Tiff, it's been a real pleasure having you on stage. I know you're going to be at the show all day. Available to say hello to. Thanks very much for being with us. Ladies and gentlemen, please big round of applause for Tiff Needell.